On the evening of April 24th, 1964, in the quiet desert town of Socorro, New Mexico, Officer Lonnie Zamora was chasing a speeding car when something completely unexpected stole his attention.
Up this road about a half a mile, and then I stopped my car and got out and looked out, and I could see a white looking object in the distance. I thought it was an overturned car at first, but I got into my patrol car and went up closer to it. And when I started to get out of the car, I heard a big roar. As I got to it,
A deafening roar suddenly echoed across the desert. It wasn't the sound of a car. It wasn't a gunshot. It sounded like an explosion. For a split second, Zamora believed a nearby dynamite shack had exploded. Without hesitation, he abandoned the chase and turned toward the source of the blast. As he drove over a small hill, something caught his eye. Resting in a dry desert gully was a strange object. It was smooth, metallic, brilliant white. It had no wings, no windows, no propellers, nothing that resembled any aircraft he had ever seen. Then he noticed something even stranger. Standing beside the object were two small figures, dressed entirely in white. From a distance, they appeared almost human. But before Zamora could get a closer look, one of them turned and seemed to notice him. Seconds later, the silence was shattered. A violent roar erupted from beneath the object as brilliant blue and orange flames burst toward the ground. The craft began to rise. Not like a helicopter, not like an airplane. It simply lifted. Terrified by the intense heat and noise, Zamora dove behind his patrol car, convinced the object might explode. When he looked up just moments later, the mysterious craft had cleared the ground. It hovered silently for an instant before accelerating away across the desert at incredible speed. Within seconds, it was gone. Officer Lonnie Zamora had no camera, no way to prove what he had just witnessed. But when investigators arrived minutes later, they discovered something that made this case one of the most credible UFO encounters in history.
Lonnie Zamora was saying, in the depths of his honesty, was not what the military was saying in their attempt to explain it.
It happened in Socorro, New Mexico, here just outside of this quiet desert town. A state highway patrol officer, Lonnie Zamora, was on duty, as he had been for the past several years. A black Chevrolet was observed, speeding by the courthouse. Zamora put his highway patrol car into pursuit. Lonnie chased the car north on US 85. As he passed this hilly area, Zamora heard a roar and something caught his attention. 10 or 15 seconds pass. Lonnie then calls in to the sheriff's office.
The time was about 5:45, I recall, when he said, Socorro 2, 1044, an accident. And then he said, I'll be 10-6 out of the car, which meant that I was going to be investigating a possible accident.
And I went up this road about a half a mile, and then I stopped my car and got out and looked out, and I could see a white looking object in the distance. I thought it was an overturned car at first, but I got into my patrol car and went up closer to it. And when I started to get out of the car, I heard a big roar. As I got to it, I could see a couple of, looked like a couple of coveralls hanging from a clothesline. I couldn't see what it was, but it looked like a couple of coveralls.
Zamora called in. He sounded very excited. He said he watched an object lift up slowly and disappeared into the sky very fast. I went down to where the object had been, and I noticed the brush was burning in several places. The object had left 4 perpendicular impressions on the ground. I noticed several bushes were smoldering, but they felt cold to the touch. I noticed what appeared to be a couple of oval footprints on the ground. I knew Lonnie had seen something. The proof was right there.
The incident was very interesting, to say the least. It seems to differ from practically all the earlier cases we investigated from one standpoint. The vehicle had left pod marks. There was an insignia observed by Lonnie Zamora on the side of the craft. The insignia was unidentifiable, not American nor Russian. And last of all, the observation of these 2 people in some sort of suit.
We went over the case completely. We had soil samples tested at the Air Materials Laboratory. The burnt bushes were analyzed for propellant residue. We measured the distances between the pod marks. My first reaction was that it was a lunar test module from NASA or the Air Force. That seemed to be the only logical explanation. This was probably the best documented case in the Air Force files, and I checked it out everywhere, all the way up to the top, even to the White House command post, and nothing.
According to the official status of the sighting of Lonnie Zamora, case carried as unidentified, pending additional data.